Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on Arc Warden, Dota's Double Dude. Arc Warden is a ranged universal mid-hero whose most iconic feature is taking every single problem that he poses to your team and then doubling it with his ultimate. That ultimate is Tempest Double, which spawns a perfect clone of Arc Warden capable of using not only all of his spells, but also all of his items. This ability, all by itself, turns Arc Warden into one of the most mechanically intense heroes in the game, giving you up to 20 different active abilities to use at any given time. It's quite a challenge to take on, but it effectively doubles your net worth, making a hero that can outscale almost every other character in the game in the right context. You also gain additional copies of all three of your basic abilities, which are all strange and come with their own set of weird hidden rules. His Q is Flux, a unit target debuff that punishes Dota players for being lonely. It slows and deals damage over time, but is disabled if the victim is near a friendly unit, similar to Spectre's Desolate. It's a valuable ganking tool and an interesting harass option in the lane, and thanks to Tempest Double, you can apply it to the same guy twice. It creates a small, distinct AoE that grants 100% evasion and a massive attack speed boost, scaling up to 120 to any heroes inside of it. Notably, the evasion will only apply to heroes who are outside of the bubble, so if a melee hero jumps in right next to you, it will not save you. It's a big part of why Arc Warden is encouraged to scale with both physical and magical damage, and when it was first added to the game, it could also make your towers basically invincible. That's since been removed, but that hasn't stopped me from mentioning it as a fun little tip in like 4 other videos. His third ability is Spark Wraith, his alternative circle on the ground. This ability plops a little ghosty on the ground, unrelated to Grimstroke's dead wife, and when an enemy hero gets too close to it, it will detach from its circle and chase them down, dealing a fat magical nuke while also slowing. With a cooldown of only 4 seconds long and being perfectly able to stack, it's possible to grab a ton of ghosts, throw them down on a bounty rune spawn, and watch as an enemy hero who doesn't know how your hero works walks in and instantly dies before the horn. It's a big part of his solo kill potential once he hits level 6, and since the Tempest Double mana instantly refreshes every time you spawn it, you can constantly mash this ability with no fear. He currently has 2 facets, the first of which is Runed Replica, which applies a ganking rune effect to your Tempest Double whenever it spawns in. At level 3, it will by default have the benefits of Arcane Invisibility and Haste runes, which sounds broken, because it is, and yet it's not even the better of his 2 options. That would be Power Capture, which allows Magnetic Field to immediately pull in all bounty runes within 3000 range of it. Once they arrive to the magnetic field, they will immediately activate, giving Arc the bonus, along with 4 seconds of regen rune from his innate, and then he also gets an additional 1.5 in all of his stats for the rest of the game. It takes a hero who's focused entirely on scaling and makes him scale harder and faster, making it the much more popular and successful option, though again, both are good. All of these things combine to create a hero who can deal an insane amount of damage either magically or physically, and if the game goes long enough, he will outcarry your position 1 while his Tempest Double outcarries your mid. But again, that magical Christmas land is really only possible if the Arc Warden player has the mechanical skills to precisely hit 18 different buttons in the middle of a very chaotic team fight. As for his lore, Arc Warden is the Third Ancient, and he's set out to oppose the battle between Radiant and Dire, hopefully ending it for good. Still, that does nothing to justify why he refers to himself in the third person, like Mike Tyson. Hey guys, it's the tier list personality. The PowerPoint personality asked me to come in and take over for a little bit of the Arc Warden PowerPoint, so I'm here to do that and explain why he is Wizards. Fun fact, he's one of very few Dota heroes to have confirmed pronouns. You'd think it'd be they, them, but it's actually self. A little bit weird on that one. See that in a Tumblr bio every now and again. Anyway, I'm here to talk about how he's Wizards, so we're going to talk about his unit target migraines first. So Flux is a really powerful ability, and thanks to Tempest Double, you are able to quickly learn that it stacks, which is kind of a wild thing. There's a few other spells in Dota that stack and you wouldn't expect them to, like Razor Ultimate, which I always talk about. This is another one of those examples, but Arc doesn't have to buy a refresher. He just has to hit the R button, and now he can Flux you twice. And it deals a 35% slow that stacks, I think it's multiplicatively. Basically, it just makes you slow as shit. So he can do that, and then you're so slow that he can throw down Spark Wraith on a 4-second cooldown right wherever you are, and you can't get out of the search circle. Maybe you have a kind of mobility tool, you're like a puck or whatever, but even then you have to burn those. So the result is you're super slow, you're taking damage over time from Flux, he's throwing down Spark Wraiths on balance every 2 seconds right under your feet, and those slow too. It's a 100% slow. It's really brief, but it matters. And as a result, you have one of the most insane level 6 power spikes of any hero in the game. And remember, this is him as a caster, because he's able to use his insane right-click range to also interact with you in the lane in a way that's really difficult to interact with on your end. And if you try, he's got Magnetic Shield anyway. The point that I'm trying to make here is that he is a better spellcaster than the majority of dedicated mages in the game, and he hits that level 6 power spike, and there's very little you can do. If you aren't playing a hero who has those built-in mobility tools like a Puck or a Queen of Pain, you're going to get solo killed, and there's not much you can do about it, and it really sucks. It's really annoying. It's a big part of why so many people are terrified of playing against an Arc Warden. I mean, you load into that game and you see a Grandmaster Arc staring at you from across the lane, and you're like, oh, I'm in trouble. Because you are. Not only does Flux stack, but Spark Wraith is able to stack on top of itself, and it has the little ghost graphic so you can tell where it is, but it can be really difficult to tell how many of them there are. So like 2 Spark Wraiths looks the exact same as 15, and there's no way to know. There's even been strats in pro play where, in anticipation of Roche respawning, Arc Warden players just drop like 50 Spark Wraiths, and then Roche spawns and instantly dies to it. And that's a thing that people have done in tournaments for money, which is kind of crazy. Very few other heroes in the game can kill Roshan entirely with spells. I'm struggling to think of them. I guess Pugna if given enough time. But that's a little bit silly, and plus you get bashed between decreps. Anyway, the point is that Arc Warden is a ridiculous magic damage dealer, and that's a big part of the appeal of playing him. But again, you're going to have to hit all of those buttons, which is tough. And I think the PowerPoint guy is actually coming back to tell you about that, so please enjoy. Alright, the PowerPoint personality is back, and so now the vocal quality is going to increase as a result. So now that you're aware of how powerful and low cooldown all of Arc Warden's basic abilities are, you should also be aware that Arc Warden loves to buy active items. This is because Tempest Devil is fully capable of using all active items in the game to their maximum potential, and that's in addition to the copy that already exists on the base Arc Warden. This means that you can have a late game inventory full of interesting actives that need to be timed perfectly, like BKB, Mjolnir, Bloodthorn, Hurricane Pike, and even Scythe of Vice. Being able to chain sheepsticks over and over again is a very powerful thing. Just ask Tinker players who are still salty about them not being able to do it anymore. But the safety valve for this idea isn't the hero itself, but instead the player behind the keyboard, because being able to swap between both you and your Tempest Double and manage all the cooldowns of those active items can be a real headache. However, there's something that Arc Warden players won't ever tell you voluntarily, which is that there's actually a console command that can make things way easier. I have it pasted in the description, and if you copy it and put it in your console and hit enter, it won't steal your credit cards, but will instead make it way easier to play this hero, because it activates a feature called Smart Multi-Unit Targeting. What it basically does is that if Bloodthorn is tied to the X key on your main hero, and therefore also on the Tempest Double, whenever you attempt to use it, it will grab whichever one is not currently on cooldown. This rule will apply to the rest of your active items as well as your basic abilities, and it makes Arc much less of a headache to play. Still, there are some situations where you don't actually want to use this feature, and if you really want to get as much juice out of this hero as you possibly can, it's actually better to leave it off. After all, I don't know any Dota players who wouldn't be willing to break both of their wrists in order to win 2.5% more team fights. Tier list personality is back, and here to tell you about the Patreon. So the lowest tier is $3. You get my videos when I'm done making them. You pay a little bit more, you get to hear me yap a little bit longer. I got a couple videos there. The other ones are done by the PowerPoint guy. And if you dox yourself to me, I'll write you a letter. I even got a custom stamp with the channel logo. Looking forward to that. Links in the description. Is that really all I get to do? Now, if all of this sounds appealing to you, or you're actually a professional pianist who just happens to play Dota for fun, here's how to play Arc Warden. You're going to be headed to the mid lane, and while it would make a ton of sense for you to go bottle, considering how much the game really wants you to go for runes, you're actually going to skip it, because instead, you're going to be rushing Hand of Midas. But before you pick up your Gloves of Haste early for the additional attack speed, you instead need to think very carefully about the matchup that you have and determine where your advantages will be. Arc Warden has a ridiculous attack range of 625, which is the same distance as Drow Ranger. This means that in many matchups you're content to just sit behind your creep wave and harass with physical damage. But on the off chance that your opponent outranges you or has considerably more damage, you instead need to focus on using your spells to harass them and free up the lane for yourself. Look for situations where you can apply Flux and pray to God that they've never read the ability before, because if they haven't, they're going to be feeding themselves to you for the entirety of the laning phase. Still, try to keep an eye on your mana pool, because you want it to be high for when you hit level 6, since you want to mash Tempest Double and immediately run them down like a dog. I seriously cannot stress enough just how powerful your level 6 power spike is, not only because of what it lets you do to the enemy position too, but because of what it does to your farm potential. The mana for Tempest Double is always copied directly from your main hero, so if it's high enough, you can immediately burn all of it, throwing Spark Wraiths down in the middle of the lane or even taking a jungle camp. But you can't just pop it willy-nilly because you're going to get a Hand of Midas, and when you do, you need to monitor the cooldown on both your main hero and the clone. The cooldowns are not shared between the two distinct versions of the item, and so you want to time it so that whenever you use Tempest Double, you can also get a Midas charge off. Thanks to the double charge feature, it's not nearly as important as it used to be, but still, your objective is to scale like a god, and you're not going to do that very quickly if you're leaving Hand of Midas charges rotting in your inventory. As far as items go, you're going to be going BOTs, so that your Tempest Double can teleport to fights on the other side of the map and contribute without risking your main hero. Alternatively, you can give the enemy team another headache by split pushing. Pick up Maelstrom to farm to upgrade into a Mjolnir later, and pick up Orchid as your first active item. As mentioned earlier, heroes with built-in mobility spells will be a counter to the Flux Wraith Spark combo that you want to use to solo kill them, and Orchid takes those options away. Use Hurricane Pike to KYS, keep yourself safe, and then upgrade to a Bloodthorn for even more insane damage. Scythe of Ice for ultimate lockdown, and then your final item is really up to you, but once you sell Midas, I recommend a Silver Edge. Breaks are extremely good in the current 7.40C meta, and being able to invis away will help counter any nullifiers that the enemy team picks up. If you've hit this point and all of your fingers are still functioning, you should be able to win the game all on your own, but note that in the post-game you'll have to clarify that it was actually a 2v9. Tier list here. I wrote a little bit about the order in which Dota heroes were ported to the game. Wait, I did the Patreon. Everyone skips that anyway, and now I also do the wall of text. That's literally like 2 sentences. This isn't fair. Well, usually, you don't get to talk at all during these videos, so you should really just be grateful. Yeah, but the entire gimmick of the video is both of us being equal, and I only got to do one full slide. I just get to do the filler. And after this, you get to do the counter section. I've been doing the counter section forever. It's what I'm good at, and you'd probably find a way to mess it up. Oh, shut up, you sound like Chris Hansen. I'm the one who has to make the entire reason I was created is because of your mess ups during the Shadow Demon. You don't even script these. Do you have any idea how much water I have to drink to keep doing the announcer voice? If you're going to bring me on for the PowerPoints, I should realize that you get more recording minutes than me every week. Since the PowerPoints added together are really only 15 minutes long. Because the tier lists get all the tier lists are like people fall asleep to them, you know. You know what? Fine. We'll do the counters together. What, like swap every sentence? Sure, if it would make you happy. You know it'll be like a total pain to edit, right? Well, that's a problem for future us. Okay, fine, but you do the outro, because I can never really nail the Peace on Planet Earth bit. I'll take it from there. Now, if you're tired of losing to this hero, or you keep matching against Eco while he's trying to stream, here's how to beat Arc Warden. Flux is like, there's maybe 5 abilities in the game that have like an off switch already attached to it, and Flux happens to be one of them, so it's pretty straightforward to cancel as long as you just get a friendly unit next to you. Spark Wraith also relies on being able to hit the exact same target over and over again, and if there's multiple targets to hit, it's very unlikely that those Spark Wraiths are going to chain on you. So picking Zoo heroes is good, and you have quite a few options. You don't even actually have to pick Zoo, you can just pick any multi-unit hero. So Lycan, Naga, Meepo, Chen, Brood, any of those, they can not only deal with Flux, but also he can't chain the Spark Wraiths on you, because it'll hit multiple different targets. But if you're really committed to the Lone Wolf playstyle, you can instead pick up a Manta style to do all of that hard work for you. Alternatively, play as if you're up against a Nyx assassin, keeping an allied hero within arm's reach at all times. Also, one of the safety valves of Arc Warden is the fact that you can get a ton of golden XP by just farming the clone. It gives so much, and a lot of learning Arc Warden players don't even know how to protect it. So if you have heroes that can do a lot of single target damage to it, you can wind up benefiting from him just feeding Tempest doubles to you over and over. But whenever you find a Tempest double lollygagging around in your jungle or split pushing your tier 2 tower at 18 minutes into the game, a magnetic field is sure to follow. Magnetic field is kind of unique in that there's 2 different ways you can deal with it. So the most obvious one is having ways to counter evasion. Bloodthorn is really good since the active will give you 100% accuracy, but it's not very good for your teammates. And the same is mostly true of MKB, but it's not reliant on an active anymore. And since there's 2 Arc Wardens, it's oftentimes the better, because you unfortunately cannot use a Bloodthorn twice, and the Arc Warden can. The alternative is getting inside the bubble with him, so using an item like Blink Dagger to appear on top or BKB to power through the Flux slow can also be a good option. Of course, you can always grab a Harpoon in order to forcibly evict him from his own spell. Oh, and Arc Warden players, even more so than other mids, have egos the size of the moon, so if they make one tiny mistake and you really remind them of it the entire game, they might just crash out. Either that or their keyboard explodes. In conclusion, Arc Warden is a duplicitous hero, and you should absolutely play him. One of the things they don't teach you in school is that if you become a YouTuber, you will occasionally use your content voice with your friends, and they will mercilessly make fun of you for it. Peace on planet Earth. Yeah, like that.